Hey everybody, how's it going? So during a credit scene for Godzilla King of the Monsters, there were several teases for what's to come in the MonsterVerse, and one cave painting in particular appeared to showcase a previous battle between members of Kong's species and Godzilla's species. Now this painting, an obvious reference to the upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong film, is interesting as it establishes a history of, somewhat of a history I guess, of conflict between the two super species. On one hand, Godzilla is accepted to be the alpha of the Titans and responsible for maintaining the so-called natural order, while on the other hand, it seems like Kong is resisting Godzilla's status as an alpha, which could be a foundation for their conflict, and this could in theory destabilize the entire natural balance enforced by Godzilla, depending on how much damage Kong inflicts onto Godzilla. And a few quotes stick in my mind here, one being I guess Batman and Batman v Superman when he goes to Superman and says, do you bleed, you will. And another one from Iron Man 2 from Whiplash when he says, if you can make God bleed, people would cease to believe in him. And there will be blood in the water, sharks will come, that kind of stuff. And basically the whole point I'm echoing here is that if Kong is able to inflict enough damage on Godzilla, make Godzilla seem weak enough, it could cause the rest of the Titans to not view Godzilla as this, I guess, almighty king of the monsters, so to speak, at this point. So really it kind of depends on, I guess, how rebellious they make Kong in this movie and also how powerful they make Kong in this movie. Because yeah, if the Titans see that another creature or another Titan such as Kong can basically defeat Godzilla in combat, it may make one of them, probably Rodan more than others, but it may make one of the other Titans feel themselves a little too much, and then they'll try challenging Godzilla, and it kind of just throws everything off. Now, my personal theory and answer to why they'd be fighting is that Kong is in a rather unique situation with regards to the other Titans, seeing as how Kong and his species have been living on Skull Island. Now, Skull Island is obviously very isolated from the rest of the world, and before the Skull Devil and the other Skull Crawlers systematically killed off Kong's family, it appeared that the Kongs ruled Skull Island basically for thousands of years, while potentially guarding the hollow earth tunnels located on Skull Island. And this could have resulted in the Kong species remaining obviously active and rather autonomous from the other Titans, while those Titans were hibernating. And without a Titan such as Godzilla, let's say, active for thousands of years, without him being the alpha of the Titans for thousands of years, it could be presumed that the Kong species simply evolved beyond the pack mentality that the other Titans still have. And this would actually explain why certain devices like the Orca or even Ghidorah's call in Godzilla King of the Monsters didn't seem to really influence or persuade Kong to leave Skull Island, as according to what I'm saying here, he wouldn't be bound to the sway of an alpha anymore. He is his own alpha. Now, another reason for the conflict between Godzilla and Kong could be their respective social capabilities. By this I mean more so how it's been mentioned several times in interviews from directors of Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Kong, that there's an emotional component to Kong that Godzilla lacks. And this correlates with the protective and very benevolent nature Kong seems to have towards humans specifically, which Godzilla doesn't have. And while Godzilla doesn't hate humans, he also isn't proactively trying to save any either. And it's been stated that by the creative minds, behind the whole MonsterVerse project, Godzilla would destroy humanity if it posed a threat to Earth or the natural order. And since humanity does not, Godzilla doesn't actively go out of his way to attack any humans. However, this could result in Kong seemingly resisting and going against Godzilla because maybe Kong views Godzilla's actions at some point as a threat to humanity or, a threat to something regarding Skull Island that Kong, obviously with his, I guess you could say, more developed emotional type of awareness and just processing abilities, I don't really have a fancy word for it, sorry, but due to Kong basically being more advanced in that department, he could just have more sympathy for the people that Godzilla is seemingly killing and destroying inadvertently when Godzilla is doing what Godzilla does. So in a way, this could make Kong a champion of the people, so to speak, while Godzilla is still maintaining his force of nature MO that he commonly has in most of his contemporary appearances. Now, the final and most logical reason that Godzilla and Kong would be fighting is simply that they're territorial animals doing what territorial animals do. And according to Godzilla King of the Monsters director Michael Dowdery, he says story-wise, the hope is that their motivations for fighting each other are sound and not contrived. But when you have two extremely hyper-aggressive masculine territorial animals who both believe that they're the rightful rulers of an entire species, chances are they're going to do more than have afternoon tea. Now, this does give the impression that outside of King of the Monsters, certain dynamics will be playing with a sort of tension between Kong and Godzilla, with regards to Kong, I guess, feeling obliged, or not feeling obliged, but feeling inclined to challenge for the role of being the king of all the Titans, which I think is kind of crazy because honestly, Kong doesn't really seem to really care about much or ever even leave anything outside of Skull Island. So the idea of him claiming the throne or challenging for the throne is definitely kind of far-fetched in that aspect. I don't doubt that Kong wants his own autonomy, but I do doubt that Kong wants to be the king of all the monsters in a sense of how Godzilla is, with how Godzilla is literally going around the world and calming different Titans and seemingly enforcing a certain order across all the Titans. I don't really see Kong doing that at the same extent Godzilla is, but who knows? I'm still really excited to see what happens with this movie. What do you guys think is the reason Godzilla and Kong are going to battle it out? Leave your comments down below, and we'll see you guys later.